Hey, all. Today we are going to talk about two different types of segments or lines and how they interact with circles and form arcs and angles like we've been talking about. So the first one is called a tangent line, or we could have a tangent segment. And what makes something tangent is that it only touches the circle once. So here we have this green tangent line that touches the circle one time, and then it'll go on and on forever and never touch that circle again. So over here, we have a secant line, secant. It touches the circle twice. We could also have a secant segment. Okay, it doesn't always have to be a line. It could be a segment that goes through the circle and touches it twice. You might notice that part of this secant line between the places where it touches is actually a chord. So those tangents and those secants interact with circles, and they create arcs and angles that have specific relationships. And so in this case, we have a relationship where we have two tangents. So segment GF and segment EF are two tangent lines. And when they intersect, they create this angle the arrow's pointing to. And then they also create a small arc and a big arc. And the small arc should look smaller to you, and the big arc should look bigger. And so the relationship here is that this angle formed by the two tangents and this small arc add up to 180 every time. And so if you know either the small arc or the angle, you can find the other one. Here we have a tangent line, and then it's intersecting a secant, and it creates this angle, and this angle creates this arc. And so this angle and arc have the same relationship that an inscribed angle had, and it's that 2 times the angle is equal to the arc. Remember, an inscribed angle had a vertex on the circle, just like this angle does, right where the tangent line touches the circle. And so this angle, if I multiply it by 2, will tell me how big this arc of the circle is. And then the last relationship we have exists if we have one tangent line and one secant line, or we have two secants. And it's that 2 times the angle is equal to the big arc measure minus the small arc measure. So I'm going to do small arc in green for both of these. And I'll do big arc in blue. You can notice in both pictures that there are a couple arcs I didn't highlight, and those are arcs that we are not concerned with. We're concerned with the arcs that are between the two segments. And of course, the big arc is always bigger, and the small arc is always smaller. So here we have the green small arcs and the blue big arcs. And if we subtract them, they will be equal to twice the size of the angle. Again, I have the arrow pointing to the angle I'm talking about, the angle that's formed by those segments intersecting. So let me do a couple problems. In these two, I have two tangents. So the relationship that exists, that I'll write both times, is that the angle plus the small arc equals 180. So I'm actually going to look at the one on the right first. The angle is what I'm looking for, and I have the small arc, and I'll be consistent and color it in green. And so I just need to plug in question mark for the angle, 125 for the small arc. They should add up to 180. So if I subtract 125 on both sides, I find out that arc is 55 degrees. Over here, I have to do a little bit more work. I'm given the big arc that I did in blue. And so I need to find the small arc. Those two arcs together make the whole circle. So if I subtract 260 from 360, it tells me that this green small arc is 100. And now I can plug 100 and question mark in, and I can find that angle to be 80 degrees. In these two pictures, I have a tangent intersecting a secant. We get an angle formed, and so the relationship that I'll write down for both of them is 2 times the angle equals the arc. And so over here, the angle is 71 degrees. And so I want to find out how big this arc is. So I plug in 71 degrees for angle, question mark for the arc, and find that it's 142 degrees. For this one, I know the angle again. I want to know the arc here. So I plug 76 in for the angle, question mark in for the arc, multiply by 2 and get 152. Sometimes we'll ask for the other arc. And so what we could do is, if we wanted to know the yellow arc, we could just subtract our answer from 360 and find out how big that arc is, since these two arcs together make the whole circle. So just keep an eye out for that. And now here I have an example of a tangent and a secant, and then 2 secants. Their relationship is the same. Twice the angle is equal to the big arc minus the small arc. And so I write the formula every time I use it. In this one, I'm told the angle. I want to know the small arc, and I am told the big arc. So I need to plug in where appropriate. So 57 goes in for angle. 173 goes in for the big arc, question mark for the small. I'll multiply both sides, or I'm sorry, I'll multiply 57 by 2, and then subtract 173. And to get rid of these negatives, I can just multiply them both by -1 and find out that the small arc is 59 degrees. For this other one, same relationship, 2 secants. I have the small arc is 45, the big arc is 123, and I'm looking for this angle, question mark. So I'm going to plug in where it's appropriate. Question mark is the angle, so it goes in here. 123 is the big arc, 45 is the small one. Do some subtraction. Divide both sides by 2 to find out that that angle formed by the 2 secants is 39 degrees. So I've left you one of each to do on your own. I would like you to do them on your own, and then we'll go over the answers in class. So there's 3 of them. So after this one, I'll switch to the next one. So I'll pause a few seconds and then show you the next question. So make sure you do 3 questions for class next time.